Welcome to Classics You Slept Through. We're the book podcast where we read and discuss classic books. I'm your host, Kyle Davis, along with a girl who has never walked on ice floes. I don't think. My sister, Mare.
Oh,
how's it going,
never.
Mare?
I've been better. Better.
You have finally, after 2 years, succumbed to the global pandemic.
Finally, 2.5 years.
Two and a half.
2.5 years.
The president said it's over. What are you doing getting it? Come on,
I
now.
know. He said it was over, and the next day I got it.
You gotta
Like,
prove him wrong.
You don't owe me. You can't tell me what to do.
Oh my goodness. Well, join the club. We all had it way back in January, so your turn. Yay.
Yay.
It is flu season though, folks, so please get your flu shots, and that's coming back with a vengeance, and get your COVID booster, because you may as well protect yourself while you're at it.
Or just get COVID, and then you don't need a booster.
Yeah, you could just do that too, I guess.
I don't recommend it, actually. I don't.
Yeah. Booster's less invasive.
No stars.
Well, today we are going to finally finish Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which we started many, many months ago. And in addition to finishing up, we are also going to kind of mini celebrate a kind of momentous occasion. Do you know what this is, Mare?
Oh, what?
This is episode 100.
What?
This is our 100th episode of the podcast, which we started 2.5 years ago for something to do during a global pandemic. And we have kept it, I don't know if I'd say going strong, but we've kept it going anyway.
Yeah. It is alive.
We're not quite on life support, but I don't think we're not living our best life yet here with the pod, but we are slowly getting there, folks. You're hanging with us, our loyal listeners, and we are still here reading books and talking about them. So today we're going to talk about the ending of Frankenstein, which hopefully you have been listening to and enjoyed with us.
Yeah. Shout out to anybody who has been with the podcast and used to know when we did 2 episodes a week, like Tuesday, Thursday. Boom,
wow.
Bam.
That's what a global pandemic will get you, and you're sitting at home, and we have time to read and pod and discuss, each
now
week.
It's like one a season.
Each month.
This is the fall episode. No.
We're lucky. I think 2 episodes a month is kind of average. If we can get 1 a week, we're doing well. But I think 2 a month is probably where the pocket we're in right now. Hopefully we'll get better. We're striving for greatness, folks. We will get there eventually. Because we enjoy doing this, and we do it for you all who listen to these books and like to talk about them with us. And we appreciate you all out there who listen to this thing that we've been doing. And I like to think that we've gotten pretty decent at it, at our craft, would you say?
I hope so. Look, I don't listen to a ton of podcasts, so I have nothing to compare it to. Though, I don't know. You're the podcast person.
Well, I definitely think we've
I'm the book
improved,
person.
Relative to our baseline of beginning this thing over 2 years ago. So, as we're reminiscing a little bit here on episode 100, if you're a listener who's stuck with us since Call the Wild, or has maybe gone through the entire catalog, shoot us a note, drop us a line at one of our social medias at cystpod or cystpod@gmail.com, and let us know. Have we improved our craft? Do you have suggestions, recommendations to get this podcast even better than? Hopefully, it's better than when we started. We have video. We're on YouTube as well now. That's a step up, right? Yeah. That's big time, right? We have video and audio podcasts going.
Big time. Anyway. I love it when YouTube tells me there's a new classic you slept through that just dropped. I always like it right away because I know it's good.
Are you the one? You're the one that likes all our videos then? Oh, great.
Yeah, it's me.
I'm like, oh, we have people that actually like these videos. It's just you. All right.
One person. It's me. Well, I can't click on it and not like it.
Well,
that would be irresponsible.
I suppose that's true. Okay, well, anyway, let's get into this here. We are in the final chapters of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So, to catch us up sort of where we've left, Victor was in Scotland. He was building the monster's companion. It got cold feet, destroyed it, and then set himself adrift in a boat. Didn't care if he lived or died. He was kind of done with this whole building monsters thing, and washed up on the shores of Ireland and was taken in by some locals. And so that's where we pick up. So, chapter 21, he lands in Ireland. The folks on the shore find him, and they take him to the local magistrate. Unfortunately, about the time he washes up, local men also found a body who has been strangled. And as we know, strangulation is kind of Junior's MO for offing people. The witnesses to the murder also say that's about the time that Dr. Frankenstein washed up, so he immediately becomes a person of interest. They kind of take him in and process him and whatnot, and after a while, the magistrate's like, well, hey, you know what? Why don't you take a look at the body? It's kind of bizarre. I think he wants to see if there's a reaction from Frankenstein, so he can ascertain, guilt or innocence here. So they walk him in, and lo and behold, the body is Henry Clerval.
Clerval!
What do you know?
Oh, no.
Clerval had been with Frankenstein up hanging out with some friends in Scotland, but when Frankenstein went to the islands to do his work, Clerval had said, well, you know what, I'm going to go back to London because I have some folks down there. We're getting an expedition to India together, and so I want to get that going. But I guess en route, he was intercepted by the creature and then murdered.
And then brought back?
Yeah, the guys who found the body said that it looked like the body had been placed there.
Okay.
So Clerval was murdered off-screen somewhere. We don't know where. And then I guess maybe the monster was waiting for Frankenstein to land so that way he could place the body in the vicinity.
Yeah, because he's out there floating around.
Right.
Like, he doesn't just, accidentally float back up at his house or the hovel or whatever you want to, it wasn't a hovel, but that little rented cottage on the beach that he had.
Right.
And so off stage or behind the scenes, Junior's got dead Clerval, and he's just like, all right, come to shore. Come on, row your boat ashore, Dr.
How long is it going to take?
Just going to wait so I can frame you. And so the moment before Frankenstein washes up, or is retrieved, or his boat hits the shore, whatever you want to call it, then he sticks the body in. Well, no, he's stuck. Didn't they say the body was found where he took off?
No, because he washes up. It's found in Ireland. It's not found on the island.
Because the magistrate was like, it doesn't totally fit together.
Well, his theory was that Frankenstein killed Clerval, got in the boat, left shore, and then got washed back to the same spots. That's why he was near the body.
Okay.
Which makes zero sense, because had he murdered Clerval, I think he would have tried to get away from the scene, not just hang out.
But he didn't know much about tides in the ocean, so
this is true.
Just like a novice mistake.
I mean, it's that old police show adage, right? Like the criminal always returns to the scene of the crime.
So they say.
So of course Frankenstein was a suspect.
Yeah.
Well, Frankenstein sees Clerval, and then as his wont, he completely loses it and goes into a stupor for 2 months.
2 months he passes out, or
this guy, yeah, he's got some issues with his constitution, shall we say.
He's got bad bile.
Yes, exactly. So for about 2 months, he's just laying up in jail until he kind of comes to his senses. And that's when he meets the woman that's kind of put in charge of him, who's a rough woman of the tides, taking care of him, has no sympathy in her heart for this wretch that she has to look after. And Mr. Kerwin, the magistrate, comes down and tells him, hey man, I'm doing my best for you here. I'll put you in the best room we have in the dungeon here.
The dungeon suite. There's an ensuite. You can just piddle in this bucket in the corner.
Exactly. But he tries to buoy Frankenstein's spirits a little bit. He says, hey, we rifled through your stuff. We found your papers. And I wrote to your dad, and he should be coming soon, hopefully. This was 2 months ago, though, so maybe he'll get here eventually. Unfortunately, that is also the day his father arrived. So what a coincidence!
Wow, how fortuitous!
Exactly.
Well, he also tells the magistrate everything.
Yes, he does. Frankenstein is getting very loose with his descriptions of what's going on at this point. He doesn't try to hide it like he did back during Justine's trial. Well, Dad shows up. He says, "Hey, everything's good at home, man. We're going to get you out of this." Seeing his dad and hearing the good tidings starts to get his spirits up. And then it's soon time for court. It's the season of the assizes. And so they can bring his court up, or bring his case before the local court. So I looked this one up.
I was going to say, what's the season of assizes?
The season of assizes is the assizes court, where apparently England used to have what they called quarter sessions, which is 4 times a year they would hold court. And then serious cases that came out of the quarter sessions would get passed up to this periodic assizes court. So they apparently, England didn't have permanent courts until 1972. So I guess you just had to wait around until the judges were like, okay, it's time for court. Bring all the cases.
Wow.
Very strange. Yeah, if we have any English listeners or English law scholars, you want to explain it more than Wikipedia, please feel free. But, so, it's been a few months that Frankenstein's been basically in pretrial confinement, and then he gets his case brought to the court, and the court says, "Oh, yeah, you have an alibi. You were totally on the islands when this happened, man. You're free to go. Acquitted, done." So, pretty simple open and shut case, I guess. And so then Frank says, I want to, we got to go back to Geneva. Let's go home. Dad's worried. I don't think you're fully recovered there, Victor. But he says, nope, we can go. Let's set out. And so that kind of we're in and out of chapter 21. Get Clerval's dead, and Frank's legal trouble is cleared up pretty quickly.
And in that interim, Frank not only passes out for 2 months, but he's so distraught that he believes he belongs nowhere but a dungeon. Like, that's actually the best place for him. He's such a miserable creature, or he's such a miserable person. I don't want to mix up our terms, creature, get people confused. And when he tells Kerwin, or the magistrate, everything, he is, for a bit, heartened, looking at his face and watching him like into the story. And then when he asks him for action, like, okay, so go get this guy, let's go find him, he's like, oh wait. And he realized, like, he was paying attention to him as one would pay attention to a real cool story,
right?
But he doesn't totally believe him. And I think I got the impression that he was humoring him for a bit. And he's like, but if he is what you say he is, how could we possibly apprehend him? So
right,
he's thwarted. I feel like this is the first person he's told the whole story to, this magistrate.
I think it is, yeah.
And he's not believed.
Clerval was obviously ignorant of it, or else he would have maybe been on guard.
Yeah. I don't know.
Poor Henry, he was such a pure soul. All right, so then we get to chapter 22. They've taken the boat from... Wait a second. They were in Ireland. They took a boat to... Oh, they're going to Switzerland. Yeah, anyway. Getting my geography mixed up. So they took the boat from Ireland around. They landed in Paris. And Dad's worried about his... Frankenstein's constitution, his health. So they stopped to rest for a few days. And this is where he begins sort of his ravings. And he keeps telling his father that he's responsible. He's the one who murdered Justine and Clerval and William. And his dad is starting to get worried. He's like, my son's going mad. He's crazy. They're in Paris for a little while, and right before they leave, he gets a letter from his dear cousin / betrothed Elizabeth.
/ sister / best friend.
Sister-ish. Yeah. The adopted girl that was stolen from, by Frankenstein's
mom who didn't
parents.
like her anyway.
Right. So she is, the pure soul that she is. She's unsure if Frankenstein still wants to marry. And she says, I love you so, so much that if you met someone else, I would not want to stand in your way of true love. So I will step aside nobly and let you marry whomever you wish, just so that, because your happiness is all that I truly desire.
She's like, biological clock is ticking, and I should find somebody else, sir.
Yeah. I'm all of 19. I'm getting old. No, she's what? She's probably like 23.
She's been waiting
24.
years for him, though.
She has been. Yeah. So he writes back and says, no, I still love you, but he's worried, and we start getting probably the worst foreshadowing in literary history, because Frankenstein remembers that Junior said, "I will be with you on your wedding night," and of course, he believes this to mean that Junior wants to kill him, and he's going to kill him on his wedding night. When I think it was pretty obvious from the beginning that that's not his intention.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this whole time he's killed everyone around you that you care about, and has threatened to do that over and over again. And yet this one time you're like, it probably means me.
Yeah. Even though he's had ample opportunity at every turn to have done him in. I mean, and he hasn't. So
yeah, and the fact that he's like, screw it, let's just do it. I'm gonna get married and
then die.
Whatever fate befalls me. Not to mention the fact that you could have just said, "Oh, thanks for the out, sweet cheeks. I did meet someone, and this saves both you and me, and I'm not getting married, and I'm never coming home." But no, my neighbor's coming home on the motorcycle. It's really loud. He decides, let's do it. Let's get married. So he's setting her up for extreme trauma, to be like, to find him dead, or to watch him be choked to death by Junior in the night. He's just okay with it.
If he truly thinks that he's going to be murdered, he's setting up his soon-to-be bride to watch him die, which is horrific.
Why didn't he take the out?
Because he's been waiting since he was a kid, man. He loves her. It's true love. Come on, you can't get in the way of that.
If it's true love, then you don't allow her to be murdered by a creature, or allow you to be murdered in front of her by a creature.
Oh, come now. Elizabeth is too pure for this world. She can't exist in it. She has to transcend the plane. Well, anyway, so he says, yep, let's get married. I still love you. So he gets home, and they start planning the wedding, like, right away. Like, we got to get this thing done. And he's worried that the creature is going to show up, so he starts walking around armed with pistols and knives, and he's ready for battle, even though he's very confident in his own abilities, even though he has tussled with the creature before, and he is vastly superior in speed, strength, agility, everything. He couldn't even touch him, and yet he still thinks, well, I'm gonna soldier up here, and I'm gonna be able to do this. We get a little side note. Elizabeth apparently, even though she was adopted out of poverty, she apparently was rich at some point, and so, she gets her fortune restored to her. So that's nice. So now Frankenstein, I guess, he has an inheritance if she should die, I suppose.
Lucky him.
Yeah, no kidding. And then they head off on their honeymoon, and that's the end of chapter 22.
I got real problems with Victor Frankenstein.
Well, I think he's a problematic person from the start. Even though we're going to extol his virtue and nobility later on towards the end of this book. We get to chapter 23, which is a pretty short chapter, but it's the sort of things happen chapter. So they're off on their honeymoon, and they stop over for the first night there at an inn, and Victor's very troubled. He can't sleep. So he says, Elizabeth, you go on to bed. I'm going to patrol the inn. I'm going to find when Junior shows up, right? Well, while he's walking around in the halls with his weaponry and in his getup. He hears a scream, and of course, Elizabeth is being murdered by the creature. He busts in, and he sees Junior out the window. He takes a couple shots at him, but he misses, and Junior runs off into the night. And he is just, the people come into the inn, and he is disconsolate and just beside himself. And so, in a very unrealistic scene, I think, there's just been a murder in the inn, and this guy, the husband, who I think would be prime suspect, he immediately says, I got to get back to Geneva and protect my family. So he races off.
You did such a bang-up job protecting your wife in the first place. Exactly. Clear warning this was going to happen.
Right. So there's no horses that night, so he races to a boat and rows back to Geneva with these guys. Actually, he doesn't row. He tries to, but then he kind of collapses because he's a little wussy man. And so these dudes have to row him back. Does. Exactly.
He passes out.
He gets home. He tells his father that Elizabeth's been murdered, and of course now his father, his heart just goes out. He can't bear the news, and in a few days his father is also dead, so now he's responsible for yet another death in the family. And now Victor decides, my driving force in life is going to be revenge. I'm going to go after this creature, and I'm going to destroy him once and for all. The first way he's going to do it, though, is he decides to go to the authorities and get the cops to do it. And he explains everything, and they're like, bro, that's really cool, but, yeah, if he's as strong as you say he is, like, what are we supposed to do? We can't get him, man. So they're like, good luck. If he comes in and, you have him in chains or something, we'll arrest him, sure, and we'll make sure he gets punished, but yeah, we're not going to expend too much effort going after this guy. Which makes me think, did they really believe him? I don't know,
No. I mean, that's a good out also. Of course, I mean, and it's not wrong, because the description of the creature is like he bounds up the mountains.
Right.
Like,
how are you supposed to catch him?
Like a little mountain goat or a giant mountain goat.
Yeah.
Just like, beep, 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 beep. How are you going to catch him?
You can't. He's just out. So Victor says, you know what? If you guys can't do it, I will do it myself. And that's where we end the very short chapter 23.
Chapter 24 is like the longest chapter, and I feel like it could have been multiple.
Probably. It probably could have been. But I think Shelley was like, I just gotta get this thing done. So she just kept writing.
I don't... So the things that I've written down... in chapter 24, no, we just did chapter 23. We're about to do chapter 24.
We're about to do 24.
Yeah. I find it utterly unbelievable that Frank doesn't get that the monster was going to kill Elizabeth, which we've talked about. But I just feel like unfathomable. Although...
Right. I totally agree. Like you saw it coming as soon as, like, he met the monster the first time and was like, I'm gonna haunt you and I'm gonna be with you, man. Like, to me, it was obvious immediately he was gonna kill Elizabeth. I mean,
I'm having a debate in my mind right now as to whether or not I think that I find it crazy that Victor didn't think of it, in that I believe that Victor didn't think of it, and that's crazy, versus that's poor writing on Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley's part. How did Victor not think of it? I think it totally tracks with Victor, and I find it a believable part of his personality, though it's ridiculous that he didn't think of it. Does that make sense?
Do you think she was going for a Shyamalan twist? She was trying to set us up by Victor going, oh, he's going to kill me, he's going to kill me. And the readers are like, oh, he's going to kill him, he's going to kill him. And, like, obviously he's not. I don't know.
I feel like my first reading... I do feel like my first reading, I believed I was with Victor. I was like, yeah, he's going to kill you.
Oh.
And then when he kills Elizabeth, I don't know if I was shocked or if I was like, of course.
Yeah.
Like, he got me too.
Well, The fact that he was only killing, everything that Victor loved, like, that's how he was getting at him.
And Victor's
that was his MO.
Right? Well, Victor's his dad, too.
Right.
It's hard to kill your creator, even if you're mad at him.
Right.
Or you hate him,
He just wants to get back at him. Yeah, exactly.
Wants to make him as miserable as he has made him.
Right. Friendless and without anybody in this world, which is the way that he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe Victor needs to read more. He never really read enough novels growing up, perhaps. He was too many science books.
That's what I think. If you read enough, you could see it coming. Everyone's like, let's make AI. I'm like, don't make AI. They're going to take over the world and they're going to use our bodies as fuel. Don't do it. You can't control the AI.
There's a good tweet about that. That's it goes along the lines of like, don't build the doomsday. When the scientists build the doomsday device, we were totally inspired by the doomsday device in the book. Don't build the doomsday device. That's why we built it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
God.
It's gonna happen. Well, anyway. So then we get into chapter 24 here, the final chapter of the book, the longest chapter of the book. It starts off, we find Victor heading out. He's wandering the earth looking for his creature. And one evening he drops to his knees and he swears upon all that is holy and calls out to the spirits of evil, help me find this creature. And then he is rewarded by hearing laughter in the distance. So now he's realizing that the creature is just playing sort of cat and mouse with him and watching him and taunting him. He's then whispers in his ear that he's happy. He's like, I'm happy that you want to live now, Frank. Like, good, let's do this. I was waiting to see what you were going to do. That was kind of creepy, I thought. And if I was Frankenstein, I think I would have realized, like, man, I am way in over my head at this point. Like, I cannot do this,
Blinded by rage.
He is.
Vengeance. The monster also says he's satisfied at some point.
He does.
Like he's killed everyone in either directly or indirectly that Victor cares about. And he says he's satisfied. And I wrote down, do you believe him? He says he won't do anything else. And I assume he's going to let everyone else live now, although there is no one else except Victor.
Well, Victor's got one other brother, doesn't he? He's got Ernest.
Nobody
he sort of fell out
Ernest.
Of the picture. Yeah, nobody cares about him. He sort of fell out of the picture. Ernest is like, man, just leave me out of this.
Yeah.
I want to get married.
He's like, we were never that close.
Right. He always liked William better. But yeah, he says, look, he was waiting to see if, I guess, Victor would kill himself in despair. But he says, if you want to live, man, I'm good. I've accomplished my mission. You will live in despair and friendless and lonely, just like me. And that's the implication. And he's happy because that was his goal, to leave Victor as, empty and lonely as he is. Well, this, obviously enrages Frankenstein, and he sets off. We just get we yada yada over many months of him chasing him. He keeps seeing little clues in the distance. He'll go through a village, and the villagers will say, yes, we saw this creature, and he went that way, basically. And so Victor runs off.
He left you this note on a tree.
Yeah, he's inscribing notes into the trees and rocks. He's even leaving him food sometimes. He's like, I killed some rabbits for you. They're over there. Go eat. Like,
Junior wanted a companion, and now he's got one.
He's kind of guy.
They're essentially companions now. They're in this game. I don't know what it is. It's clearly Victor is extending a lot of effort, a lot of energy, all of his money. It's not easy for him, and I think it is absolutely just, I don't know, child's play. It's really easy for the creature to be like,
right,
to just live wherever they're going, to go from place to place, to, like you said, give him some food. Like, this is not hard for him, and so this is how he's passing the time. He's not lonely right now. He's got a companion.
I was thinking about it, like, in the beginning, it had to be sort of fun, right? The first couple months. But I mean, this goes on for a long time. At some point, he's, I don't know, like, monster, get a hobby. Like, do something, like, make something of yourself, man. Like, get an education, Like, don't you ever want to, like, stop and just level with Frankenstein and be like, man, I'm tired of this. Like, we're just going to keep doing this until you die, basically, because I'm going to outlive you. Because You're
not going to catch me.
Right. I'm just rotting body parts. I can keep going forever. But yeah, so, eventually they keep heading north, and they get to the frozen oceans. And for 3 weeks, Victor, they're doing the sled dog thing, and he's keeping him, and he kind of sees him in the distance on the horizon, staying just behind him.
How do you know someone is a day away? He was like, I was so close. He was but a day away.
I mean, he probably went through the village, and the villagers were like, yeah, he was through here yesterday. You know what I mean?
Okay, that makes more sense. I'm like, does he have crazy vision? See him? Unless he's me a day to get there.
He's really good at, like, distance estimation, and so he knows my dogs can go to the horizon in a day, and there he is on the horizon. I can catch up with him tomorrow, I don't know.
Right.
Well, he loses one of his dogs, and he starts to give up hope when suddenly the meta story kind of catches up with where we started, and Frankenstein gets picked up by the boat, where we kicked this whole thing off.
Right at that part, what he's describing of, like, taking his sledge and his dogs on the sea ice, and then suddenly they hear the ocean underneath. The thunder of described it as a thunder of the sea below, or something like that, and then it breaks apart the sea ice on top, and he loses his dogs. That sounds like an unfathomably terrifying thing.
Well, bring it full circle. Shout out to the dandy American and his wife who went under the ice way back in episode 4 of this podcast in Call of the Wild. Episode 5 or 6.
Oh yeah, Mercedes.
Yeah, the end of Call of the Wild when they go under they try to go over the ice, and the guy was like, oh, it's too, I wouldn't do it. It's breaking up, and he's like, oh, we can do it. Yeah. So nice little symmetry there with where this book is ending and where our podcast began. Well, so he gets onto the ship, and so now we're back sort of quote-unquote present day, and now the narrative picks up with Walton taking over the story. So our meta story up to this point has been Frankenstein relating his story to Walton, and so now Walton is back writing his sister, and he takes up the narrative. And Frankenstein, they're talking on the ship now, and he's getting the story, and he says to Walton, if I can't do it, if I don't make it, if I die, I need you to pick up my quest to go kill this monster. Which seems crazy to me. I don't know why Walton would agree to that, but he's like, yeah, sure, I'll, you're my friend now, because Walton needed a friend.
Well, Walton wants to, but that would mean continuing going north. And his people, the sailors, are about to mutiny. They want to go home.
Right. So then we're back to writing to Margaret, and Walton wants Frank to be his best friend, and Frankenstein just kind of shoots him down and says, you know what, man, you're great, but you can't replace people that I've known since I was a child and are now dead.
You'll never be good enough.
Right, you'll never be Clerval, you'll never be Elizabeth. The audacity of Walton to think, like, this guy I picked up on the ice a week or two ago, he's going to be my best friend. I don't know, man. Good on you for being optimistic.
It's taken a week to relay the tale.
Right. So then we got a series of letters. We got a letter where Walton is starting to worry about their safety. The next letter, you alluded to, the crew decides to mutiny, so they send a delegation down and they say, hey, Captain, we're stuck in the ice, but we think as soon as the ice breaks up, we need to go south, and if you don't want to do that, then we're going to take over and go south. And at this moment, this is when Frankenstein kind of rallies a little bit, and he gives this rousing speech that says, you guys are destined for greatness. If you do this, you will go down in history and somehow that satisfies them, and so, or at least they decide to think about it, and he's like, why don't you guys sleep on it? So in the next letter, then Walton has lost his nerve and said, you know what, they're right. If the ice breaks up, we're going home. Then we get the next letter, and lo and behold, the ice is broken up, and they are starting to head south. And so he goes to tell Frankenstein, hey man, we have decided to go back to England. This is too dangerous. We're going south. And Frankenstein says, you know what? You guys can go south. I have to go north. I don't care how weak I am. This is what I have to do. Frank kind of recaps everything, why he's doing this, why he's got to do it. And then he sort of, again, his weak constitution, I guess, he fades out and he dies.
He's like, I can do it. I'm going to do it.
Do it.
He can't do it.
Can't do it. So then a little bit later, then Walton, this is the problem with writing books in the letter format, right? In the past, because then he writes to Margaret, oh, hey, I hear something up on deck. I got to go check this out. I'll pick up the letter later. Back. Yeah, I'll be back.
Herb.
Yeah. So he goes and does that, I guess. And he comes back, and then he writes that he comes back, he hears something, he goes into the cabin, and there is the creature standing over Frankenstein's body. Distraught,
crying. He's upset.
Yes, because this is not what he wanted. Frankenstein was supposed to live, right? And Junior begs for pardon. He goes into this long speech, basically where he says, look, I was built to be good. I was built to love and have this capacity to love, but yet I have been bent towards evil, and evil has become my good, and I need pardon now for all of my sins, but you, my creator, are dead and cannot give it to me. Mm-hmm. Which has got to be sort of terrifying then. And so then Walton kind of begins speaking with him, and, Junior says that I didn't want to do any of this stuff. I was miserable. I took no joy in killing Clerval. I took no joy in any of these things. But I did them because I had to at this point. Like, once I guess it's sort of like Yoda said, once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. He just had to keep going with these murders once he had gone on this path.
But he didn't like it. No joy.
No joy in this. So then he says, look, man, I'm going to go north, and then I'm going to burn my body up and die, and that's it. And he jumps out the window and disappears from sight, and that's how we end the book.
I find it interesting that Junior tells us after he murdered Clerval, he was so upset with himself that he almost gave it all up. But then Frankenstein dared to be happy and get married that he couldn't take it anymore.
Well, that was his quest, to make sure Frankenstein was miserable. He had to finish the job.
And in doing so, he makes himself more miserable as well.
Right.
It's not whatever he's doing to Frankenstein to make him miserable and pay or whatever does not alleviate anything for the creature.
It's almost like having an addictive vice. Like you have this compulsion to keep doing something even though it doesn't bring you any joy, but you have to do it.
You do it anyway.
Right. It just happens to be for Junior, it's murdering people close to Frankenstein. So he keeps doing it.
You think he killed himself in a big funeral pyre?
Well, trees don't really grow up at the North Pole, so I don't know how he was going to do that. Maybe he stole a boat. He was going to light the boat.
He probably carried the trees with him. I don't know.
He must have. Yeah, he must have. Or maybe he just set his clothes on fire. I don't know, and got it to flame up. I don't know. Something.
He just jumped out the cabin window and
he did, and was gone. I think he probably did. I think the creature pretty much follows through with whatever he says he's going to do.
We have seen him do that thus far.
Correct.
I'm gonna kill you.
And he does.
I'll see you on your wedding night. Did you notice that the book ends on September 12th? I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, I did not notice that. Neil Peart's birthday.
Yep. That's the date of the last the last letter is
Oh,
September 12th.
I didn't catch that.
The
Very
ice breaks up on September 9th, but that's in the September 12th letter.
Right, right, because they're already heading south.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Frankenstein was out for you. He was looking for you.
I love it. Now I always know when Frankenstein ends now.
There you go. You'll never forget.
Kurt's birthday.
Never forget. Exactly. All right. Any other thoughts on these last couple chapters? Before we wrap this thing up. Next episode, we will wrap the entire book. So if you all have thoughts, please send them to us.
No, I think.
Yeah. Well, you can save it for the wrap too. We can talk.
I could save it for the wrap. I could save it for the wrap. Save it for the wrap.
Okay. All right. We're going to save it for the wrap. So, folks, join us next episode where we will wrap up all of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, as well as reveal our next book, which is going to be a fun one, I think. We're going to do some fun things with this next one. Yeah, I'd like to. We'll see. Possibly. That's in the works. Anyway. Well, this has been a fun, long journey on this one. We got it done. So if you guys want to join along with us, you can always rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. You can also go on Spotify if you're listening there. Give us a rating on their new podcast rating system. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search for Classics You Slept Through or check the show notes for the link there. So you can see our video discussions. We have also all the books are organized very nicely into playlists there on YouTube. So it's real easy to listen to the books there as well. You can shoot us a note at cystpod@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and the Facebook at cystpod. So until next time, it is fall football season, and the boosters need some assistance selling candy bars at the snack bar, so please see Mrs. Johnson after class if you want to help with that.
Peace.